This one will be a little different. We're going to be talking some industry stuff, if you will, and there's quite a few attachments here actually to this gentleman that we're talking to right now, and but at the same time, like everybody I have here, it's quite a story. Ed Linton, thank you so much for welcoming me into your office here. And we're in the office of
Altex Industries,
yeah,
yes.
Great.
The Sarnia office, first one in Ontario.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that story because we had lunch earlier this week. I've already got quite a bit of the story, and it was very interesting. But as I do with all my interviews, back to the beginning, where are you from originally?
So I was born in St. Mary's, Ontario.
Yeah.
And then from there, we actually went back up north a little bit with my father's family.
Okay.
I remember living in a cabin with no running water.
With no running water?
No running water.
Wow.
And then later on we moved back to St. Mary's. We had a little house with actually a barn on it. We had horses.
Oh.
Right on the edge of town.
Nice.
And well, my grandparents still up north. I was 12 years old before they had indoor plumbing.
Wow.
So I remember, things maybe when people make jokes about the outhouse, I remember it.
Yeah. Do you remember getting indoor plumbing, and was there a celebration or?
Well, when we moved, we had it, and then from St. Mary's we moved to a farm actually just outside of Thamesford, which is east of London.
Yep.
And we were there for quite a few years, and then during that time, my parents separated and then eventually divorced. Moved to a little town with my mom and my sister called Kintor, which is one of those ones, if it didn't have a blinking light on the main drag,
you wouldn't know it was there.
You wouldn't know it was there. And then from there, actually, I moved down here to Sarnia. I was 17 years old. A gentleman down here by the name of Bill Cook. He was the original owner or the founding owner of Sarnia Tank and Vessel.
Yeah.
And so he brought me down here to see if I could find work. I ended up working for him. And a couple months later, I moved my mom and my sister down here. And eventually, Bill became my stepfather.
Cool. Well, let's back up a little bit and pause before we get too far. Moving around a lot. How was that? I mean, you make some friends and then you move, make some more, or did you make friends? What was I always ask the question, what was school like? So
we moved a little bit from farm to farm. Like I actually went to 3 different kindergartens. We moved that much in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
And then when we moved to just outside of Thamesford, it was pretty stable for quite a while. Now when my parents split up, I ended up going to actually there was a little public school in Kintor. Mm-hmm. And I went there for grade 7 and 8. And then on into high school, which was in Ingersoll, IDCI. It was actually a pretty great high school. It was they really pushed it was mostly farm kids,
right? And
they really pushed for the kids to learn things. Like we had a massive auto mechanic shop, auto body shop, welding shop. Shop class was the big thing.
Yeah.
Home economics for the girls. The guys were not allowed to take home ec at those days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a few of us tried because it wouldn't hurt to learn how to cook. Well, I think a lot of guys should learn to cook.
Right.
And but no, it was just the way it was back then.
Yeah.
The Ingersoll community, a lot of the young men and women that lived in Ingersoll actually worked priming tobacco in the summertime. And so it wasn't uncommon for school to start, and actually those of us on the farms and then some of the local kids, we would be like 2 or 3 weeks late actually starting school. But they understood that. Most of us had to work on the farm.
You were working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so talk about your mom and dad for a moment. You mentioned in there that they divorced, and I mean, that was a different time for when people like back then you weren't supposed to get divorced, I guess, right? Yeah. Whereas it wasn't until like 80s and then more so, like you hear about it today and you're like, oh yeah. back then it was like, oh, right. So how was that as a young fella? How did you deal with that?
It was different, I guess. As far as my father, it didn't bother me very much. I stayed with my mom, so it was difficult. Any man that she dated, I didn't make it easy.
Right. Okay. Protector.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And then eventually, I became. My mom had a job in London in one of the factories, and she had to give up the job. They went on strike, so I had to leave school to be the sole provider.
Wow.
And
how old were you when that happened?
17.
Yeah.
And then that's partly why I come down to Sarnia. There was a lot more money to be made here than what I could get back there. And so, yeah, when she was dating Bill, he was a good guy. Like I appreciated him.
You gave approval there, did you?
Oh yeah, it was awkward for him the first time we met. It was in the morning. He had spent the night, and of course I'm out having breakfast, and he comes out and he has to see me. And
good morning.
So again, different times.
Yeah, for sure. And then that relationship built into long term.
It did, and I've always appreciated him. He tried to teach me a lot, especially about business and the business sense and how he did business.
Yeah.
And I've got like a bunch of stepbrothers and sisters from him, and sometimes we're close, sometimes we're not.
Yeah, that's family.
Yeah, that's family. I have one sister from my parents, so her and I are still very, very close.
Oh, that's good. Where is she?
She lives up in Midland, Ontario.
Oh, Midland, wow.
Yeah, and then my oldest son actually lives a little bit farther up. He's in Gravenhurst. So in 1980, I started with the Boilermakers.
Yeah.
I left mid-80s, and then I returned in 1990 and started the apprenticeship, which is what I really wanted to do. I had the choice. The offer was made to me to become a journeyman.
Yep.
And when I returned, and I chose to go through the apprenticeship, which helped because a lot of the older guys that I had known and worked with before, they understood why I did it, and so it helped. I think they knew I wanted to learn, and I'm very fortunate. I had a lot of great teachers over the years. And
can you name some of them?
Can I name some? Sure. Our past business agent, Dale Quinn, taught me a lot. He was the first one that tried to teach me how to weld.
Oh, yeah.
A gentleman named Tom Bowman, who's since passed, he taught me a lot. A gentleman, one of the greatest welders ever, Huey Macri, tried to teach me, work with me on my welding and stuff.
Yeah.
A very patient man. Ronnie Wallace, another welder. I should be a great welder, but I'm just not. I had some of the best try and teach me.
Yeah. You say they tried to teach you, like you don't think they were successful.
Who really taught me my trade was when I started at Sarnia Tank and Vessel. My stepfather's two partners, Gus and Henry Normando. Gus looked after the shop mostly. Gus spent a lot of time teaching me things, and he realized I wanted to learn, but I knew nothing when I came here. I remember my first day in the shop, he asked me to go grab him a choker, and I just give him a weird look. A choker is what a woman wears around her neck.
Yeah.
And that's not what he wanted. So he realized I'm like at zero, and
right.
he had to teach me.
Go get the left-handed wrench, eh?
Yeah. So he did. He spent a lot of time teaching me, and then out in the field, Henry tried to teach me a little bit. A lot of great guys over the years. The Henderson brothers. The one that taught me the most about being a Boilermaker, the union side of it all, was a gentleman by the name of Doug Jansen.
Why do I know that name? Yeah.
He was. Everybody used to call him my Boilermaker dad.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I had a question, because I would make stands and that, not always correctly, but I did. for workers' health and safety and stuff. Doug would always be there to explain to me why I should have done it differently, or to encourage me to keep going and things like that.
Yeah.
He was very much my mentor, and I think I became a fairly decent steward because of guys like Doug showing me the way.
Yeah. So you've had a really long career with all of this, and you know, you've talked when we had lunch the other day about, well, you consider yourself fortunate to have been able to have all that experience over the years.
I am. I'm very fortunate. Like as I said, I've had so many people teach me things. There's so many people, I couldn't list them all.
Right. Well, let's go back a little bit too. In all of this happening, you met a lady along the way.
My wife.
And had a family.
So what happened was when I left the Boilermakers in the mid '80s, and there's a lot of reasons why I had left, but regardless, I worked for a steel company and I was driving the truck. And then I actually ended up going inside the office into the sales side of it. And so my secretary, she decided that I needed to get out once in a while because I was spending all my time at work.
Right.
So she gave me this phone number and said, call this girl. So I called her and we talked and talked and talked. And eventually we decided to meet up. And it just moved on from there.
Yeah.
So we got married in 1988, July 2nd. She's going to be mad if I can't remember.
Right.
July 2nd.
I didn't ask the question.
Right.
I've done that, and guys are like, so good for you.
That particular year, we couldn't get a wedding license for July 1st, Canada Day. So
right.
we had to get married on the 2nd. And then not quite a year later, June 8th of 1989, Jane gave birth to our first son, who actually only lived for 3 days. There's a lot of reasons to it, and actually I will talk about it a little bit. So Jane had a job as working in one of the refineries on the afternoon night shift. She was classed as a shift foreman assistant, which meant she looked after the office side, but she would call people in for overtime and things like that. She was the assistant to the night shift foreman. When she found out she was pregnant, she let the company know, and it was all decided that, oh yes, if there's ever a problem, we'll move her into the main office. It's positive pressure and everybody will be safe. What happened one night is one of the neighboring refineries had a very nasty release. Her boss called and said, okay, we got to move Jane into the office. And, oh no, she's fine, don't worry about it. Unfortunately, the release did come right through their offices and actually put her and her foreman down. And from that day on, she started having problems with the pregnancy. So she had to leave her job. We tried the bed rest, not doing anything, and to try and extend the pregnancy, and eventually it didn't happen. We had to go down to London to the neonatal unit where my son Keegan was born, premature, and he started developing issues, so they put him on life support. And after the 3 days, they basically said he's not going to get any better. So I made the decision to remove him from life support, and unless you ever made that decision, you can't criticize anybody that's ever done it.
Especially at a young age.
Yeah, we were only, I think I was 25 or 26.
Right, that'd be like, yeah.
So, and then after Keegan passed, we had a funeral here in Sarnia for Jane's family, and then we had one up north for my family. And we actually had relatives come from Ireland and Scotland for his funeral. It was a pretty big deal.
Sure.
I'm the oldest son of the oldest son of the oldest son of the oldest son. It goes
Right.
back a lot of generations.
Yeah.
So when Keegan was born, it was a big deal. And then unfortunately when he passed,
And that was, sorry, how long in that he was born?
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was all due to, I could blame the valley. we chose to live here. We chose to work here.
Yeah.
So it started, because I had taken some time off, it started causing conflict where I was working at the time. And, whatever. I'd like to be positive. I can't dwell on negative.
Right.
So I ended up coming back to the Boilermakers. Actually, Sarnia Tank asked me if I would consider coming back and working for them. And my stepfather, actually, I was hired back before my stepfather even knew. It wasn't him that hired me back. And so I started doing that. And after I left Sarnia Tank and Vessel in 1993, I started working more in the refineries, not so much on the tanks. And I was learning about health and safety and that. See, in the 80s, it was pretty much the cowboy days. Nobody tied off. We worked at heights. You climbed steel. You did whatever. I mentioned to you earlier, like in the 80s, there was no respirators.
Yeah, where is that? Oh, yeah, that's this here. This was your bandana.
These days when I'm wearing my hard hat, I wear a white bandana. And a lot of people ask me why the white. So in the 80s, that was my respirator. I wore the bandana around my mouth. And then when I went back in the 90s, first part of the 90s, if you asked for a respirator, you'd get fired. Like, you're just a troublemaker.
Oh, yeah.
So, but things changed.
That's funny.
And it was all...
now it's...
Yeah, it's all positive change, right? But to remember those days and all the friends and union brothers that I've lost over the years, I wear the white bandana. So... But now, like the change, like getting fired for asking for a respirator. And now I could walk up to a guard shack and not even go on the site and ask for a respirator. And 9 times out of 10, they'll actually give you one.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
And it's good. It's a good change, and I'm very happy about that. As I said, I was pretty boisterous at times about health and safety and workers' rights and stuff. I didn't always do it correctly. And I've learned a lot over the years.
I was gonna say, we do things and then we learn, right?
And I've had a lot of people correct me,
Right.
and that it did cost me a lot of work at times because.
But you were able to move forward. I'll just pause a little bit there, like back to Keegan. Like so that happens, and then eventually, like you got to get back to work, and life has to continue without Keegan.
Well, and that was,
what kind of support? Like we probably didn't have the services and etc. that we do today.
There wasn't actually. Jane and I lost a lot of our friends because they didn't know how to talk to us.
Right.
And that
how do you talk to someone who's gone through that?
Well, see, we do that now. Like if there's people that we know of or are introduced to that have recently lost an infant, we'll talk to them. And because we know, we understand. But there's a lot more services now than there was back then.
Yeah.
It's part of why I really got pushing on the health and safety, because I'm like, this was an incident that didn't need to happen.
Right.
And my son was taken from me because somebody's ego said, no, you're fine. And so I fought against that a lot. And I started learning more, and then that started causing problems because I started knowing more than some of the people in the position, in a safety position.
Nobody likes that. Nobody likes a know-it-all, Ed.
Well, like a worker,
especially a young fella.
Yeah, when you're a worker and you're explaining to management the error of their ways, they don't like that. So.
No.
And I get it. I do totally get it.
Egos get in the way a little bit too.
Sometimes, yeah. But it's what I've become known for. Like I said, I've always stood up for workers' health and safety and their rights and that. So after Keegan passed, Jane and I, we're going to try for more kids, and found out we were having problems. Young guy working in the valley doesn't help our situation.
Yeah.
And then she was having problems, and actually she had so many problems that she almost died 3 months after Keegan died.
Oh, no.
And then got that corrected, and then she had another issue a few months again after that. So I was a pretty angry young man for a while.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we basically got told we couldn't have any more kids, so we started fostering for Children's Aid. And so we did that for a few years.
How was that?
It's not an easy process.
Yeah.
People, unless you've done it, you don't understand what it's like. I understand it's the law, and the judges they try and reunite families,
Right.
and get them out of get the kids out of the system. But unfortunately, sometimes in the haste, kids are returned maybe to a not the best situation. Sometimes they are, and it's great, and I love seeing that. Sometimes it was just somebody needed a timeout, and the kids would come and stay with us for a little while. But there was times, and you could see the frustration on the workers, the children's aid workers.
Yeah.
Kids are being returned, and really might not have been the best time for them to go back yet. But that was the system. It became to where I couldn't stand the system anymore, because as a foster parent, you keep track of how the kids are when they come back. Excuse me. And so and then you'd see kids being returned that maybe you didn't feel should be yet. So eventually I just no, I think it's time to stop.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, we have a child of our own, a miracle. So this is my son, Harley. Just before Harley, Jane and I adopted a boy. His name is Donovan, actually pronounced Donovan, it's Gaelic.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's my son that lives up in Gravenhurst.
Yeah.
He's quite a character. He's legally blind, and he rides around on a souped up e-bike.
Oh, yeah.
It'll actually do the speed limit, which it's not supposed to do. And he rides that around. He's a good boy. He works hard. He invests in a lot of excuse me. He invests in the stock market and crypto and all this kind of stuff. So after we adopted Donovan, then we ended up having our son Harley, which we get told afterwards that happens a lot. The pressure's off. They keep trying for kids and stuff. And then a couple years after Harley, Jane comes to me and she says, "I think I'm pregnant again." And I said, "No, we got told that Harley was a miracle."
Yeah.
And I says, "You better go get a test from the doctor." And so she goes. So she calls me. I'm in Toronto, actually going to a meeting, and she calls me and she says, "I am. Well, that's my son that you know, Ian."
Yeah. That's amazing. And you got the call, and you had to be excited.
I was surprised, that's for sure.
You were like, "Oh," I was surprised. Yeah. Good way to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a few years after Ian, well, actually 8 years after Ian, we now have our daughter, Cara.
Yeah. And they're all, older now. Like Ian, he's same age as my boy, 25, right?
Well, he will be 25, yeah.
And they're all a little different, aren't they?
They're all unique, and I actually encourage them to be that way.
Yeah.
I didn't need a bunch of clones. I encourage them to go and do whatever they want to do for their careers. Like Harley, for example, thought he would like to be a male nurse. Got a few years into the program, decided that wasn't for him. So then he went through office administration. He's actually very good at it. But the hard part is most people, it's typecast.
Yeah.
Everybody assumes an office admin should be a female.
Yeah.
So he gets, it's hard for him to find a job. So now he's going to go back to school and do a pharmacy assistant.
Okay.
And I think that'll be actually very good for him, because he did very good when he was in nursing in his pharmacology and stuff. Ian, as you know, right now he's working as a personal trainer at Crunch.
Yeah.
Does an amazing job. Ian was a large boy.
Yeah.
And he started working out and working hard, and within a year he had lost 50 pounds.
Yeah. The transition since I met him, so Ed Linton, who we've had here on the show before, like he was 12 years old.
I think so, yeah.
So that's over 10 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And he had his struggles there, and then it was like he flipped a switch all of a sudden, and worked out, and he was running, and
Oh yeah, he runs marathons now and things, and he weighs a whole lot less than I do, which he likes to brag once in a while.
Does he? Yeah, just to remind you, Dad.
Yeah, just remind Dad. But he went through radio broadcasting, and he actually does pretty good at it. I was hoping he could get hired here locally, but that hasn't happened. And
and he's gone through a lot. Like I remember, I think one of the last times that I talked to him was like on the show anyway, not in person, but was during COVID, right? And he was away at school at the time for that.
Yeah, he was actually in Ottawa at that time.
Yeah.
And Ian does, he's a musical performer. He makes his own music. Got a lifetime opportunity. He was the announcer for boxing. For the boxing gala that...
just happened a few weeks ago. Champions for Children, I think it was called.
Something like that, yeah. Unfortunately, when him and Harley were growing up, I was busy. I was either away working or I was a volunteer firefighter, and I spent a lot of time with that. I like learning, and I like teaching, and I got to a level where I could teach firefighters, so I was teaching all over the place. I taught
had a family to feed.
And a family to feed. I taught first aid, so I was always gone on the weekends, and you yourself know what that's like.
I do.
You know, everybody wants you on a weekend. So unfortunately, Mom had to step in and do most of the raising of the boys. When Cara come along, it was time for me to leave the fire department, the volunteer, and I still miss it sometimes, but sometimes I don't. People don't understand what a volunteer firefighter has to go through. You know, the things you see, and then you got to go to work the next day.
Right.
You know, and municipalities, I think, need to spend a little more time looking after their volunteer firefighters, the training, the mental health, all of that. You know, it isn't just a bunch of good old boys that want to sit around and play.
And put out fires.
And put out fires. There's a lot more demands
Shine the fire
on them. You know, when you're going out and having to deal with people that you know at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's not, you never get called at a good time.
No.
And then you got to go to work the next day, or later on that morning.
Yeah.
So.
But having the kids, I mean, and a lot of miracles there, right? You know, And overall, I mean, everybody's doing good, and you have good relationships with your children, and
yes.
What's Mom doing in all of this?
So things weren't always good in the trades. There's good times and bad times, and then of course, you know, I always seemed to be the union steward whenever I was on the job, so I wasn't always the most popular person. I was
going to say, so everybody loved you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here he comes.
Yeah. So I wasn't always on everybody's want list when work would come up. So there was a lot of times when I was at home, and so Mom went back to work. She started working as a security guard, and did that for quite a few years, and just recently retired because of my new job here now. And but she helped out financially and stuff. So as I said, when Cara come along, it was time to leave the fire department, and I actually spent a lot more time with her. She's Dad's girl.
Yeah.
And she actually comes in here occasionally, and I'm in the beginning stages of teaching her to weld to my limited knowledge.
Yeah.
And then she's kicking around the idea of maybe she would like to be a Boilermaker, and which would be fine if she wants to be. Great. If she doesn't want to be, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. Sorry, before you go on there, let's talk about that for a moment, because that just kind of triggered part of our discussion the other day. Was women in the trades.
Yeah.
And the Boilermakers, you sort of said, have embraced that.
They do. I'm very proud of that. The Boilermakers, like they like, if that's what you want to do and you can do the job, they want anybody. We have jobs where your physical size makes a difference. You get working in the towers. The smaller you are, the easier it is for you in there. When you're working on the exchangers and things like that, the bigger you are, the easier it is. So a person's size or gender doesn't make a difference.
Right.
When you're going to be a welder, I get there again. I've worked with some welders that are very large men, and I've worked with some welders that are very small. And as far as being a male or a female welder, I've worked with some female welders that are very, very good.
Better than some of the guys, eh?
Oh yeah, a lot better than some of the
I'll
guys.
say it.
Like one of the things is, for whatever reason, I was always told the female welders have an easier time welding with both hands. When we're doing TIG welding, you need both hands to do that. It's harder for a guy to learn that, for whatever reason it is.
Yeah.
Some guys pick it up really easy.
Well, maybe that's that, like, I always found like in school, right? Like the girls always wrote neater.
Yeah.
They're just a little more precisioned and focused, maybe. I don't know if that's anything to do with
More
it,
artistic,
but,
maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And maybe having, it might make some of the guys work a little harder.
Sometimes.
Because we have egos.
Oh yeah.
We can't, seriously, I'm not being, but the fact that, you're proud of the fact that they've embraced, having women in the Boilermaker, because, just stereotype, I guess, that's not, especially like a welder.
A lot of the trades are actually embracing, getting more and more females into the trades.
The laborers union, I know.
The laborers
there's quite a few,
do a lot. The pipe fitters, the millwrights, the electricians, all the trades. And I've enjoyed seeing that change. Back in the 80s, if there was a female, that was a pretty odd thing. And unfortunately, sometimes they went through a lot of ridicule, which wasn't right.
Well, they were coming into the boys' locker room, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And then now it's... I enjoy watching it. Like when I teach apprentices, and it's male and female apprentices, and they understand that we're brothers and sisters, like union brothers and sisters, and maybe she can do that better than I can, so she'll do that, but I can do this better than her, and I'll do that. But they work together, and that's the way it is, and that's an amazing change that I very much like.
I live streamed the Labor Day parade for the last 10 years or whatever. So and I can attest to the first time I live streamed the parade to now, and there's a lot of females in all the different trades. And I like how you brought forward we're all brothers and sisters. Like, okay, you're Boilermakers, brothers and sisters, but overall, electricians to laborers to Boilermakers to pipe fitters, all of that, you're still all brothers and sisters together, right?
We are, especially here in Sarnia.
Well, it's its own economy, really.
Yeah.
It's supported how many families over the years, right?
Yeah. Sarnia is a union town.
Yes.
And all the tradesmen and women here, we're all brothers and sisters. We we all have our own jurisdiction and things that we
sure,
think we
got
should
rules
be doing.
To follow, but
we should be doing, but and I've enjoyed seeing the change. I see so many young tradespeople coming in, and they want to be professionals. They want to learn their trade.
Yeah.
They're excited. They they work hard and they want to do a good job, and it's not so much about I'm just here to make money. Everybody's here to make money, but they actually want to do a good job.
They want to do the good job. They want to be there.
And that's fantastic. It's great for the contractors. It's great for the clients, the refineries.
Yeah. Now you look at your children though, and they're not following in Dad's footsteps as far as...
they've seen the hard times. They've seen things that I've done. Like I did a little bit of union organizing, which didn't make me very popular either.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it's okay, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we as dads, we tend to, you know, well, I'd like it if, you know, you tried a little bit, but then at the same time, you know, you and I talking, and I've gotten to know you over the years. You're just, you've always talked about encouraging. I mean, I know Ian better than the rest of your children, but do what you love and work hard at it. And you've always been encouraging you and Jane both that way.
Be happy with what you do.
Right.
Like, I like being a Boilermaker. I enjoyed it. It's not boring. You do something different every day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because I like it doesn't mean my kids have to like it.
Yeah.
You know, like Harley does his own thing. Donovan does his own thing. Ian does his own thing. And that's fantastic. And that's what I've told them all. Find a job that you like to do. Like, it's always going to be a job, but at least you're not going to be, you know, you're going to enjoy getting up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important.
You know, like, and now with Cara, like, she wants to learn to weld. She's learning how to do tattoos and stuff. And,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so she's very artistic, and this is her thing. Ian's very much into the music. That's his thing.
Yeah, he's an entertainer for sure.
Harley is very technical. He's good with computers and things like that. And so I actually reach out to all my kids for advice.
Yeah.
You know, like,
that's cool. You can do that, right? And say, hey, help Dad out here.
Yeah. Well, Dad's not getting any younger, so they're learning that they got to help Dad out a little bit.
Yeah. So then you're the Boilermaker. You do all this, and then you retire.
I did.
And then
so there's a bit of a story as to why I retired. Like, I'm only 62 and I retired early. So in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer, prostate cancer.
Yeah.
And some other issues. And it's pretty much, could I relate it to the Valley? Yeah, I probably can.
Yeah.
But there again, am I negative about it? I chose to live here. I chose to work here. I make good money here.
Yeah.
So is it or isn't it? I don't know. But regardless, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So they.
I'm sorry, that was in
2018.
Yeah.
And how it was discovered was basically I was at work and I couldn't go, and it's like, I wonder what the problem is. And I knew I had an enlarged prostate, but you know, it happens as you start getting older.
Right.
And the doctor, I hadn't gone for any tests to see how large it was or anything other than, you know, your exam from your doctor. And really, I think men should start getting exams at 30, not this 50 and 60s.
Right.
It
Start a
happens.
little earlier,
Some of it's the environment, and some of it is just.
Yeah.
So couldn't go, and of course I got stubborn. I stuck it out all day while I was starting to have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And Jane took me up to Emerge, and they took me into the triage, and right away they rushed me to the back. My kidneys were starting to shut down. I was in dire straits because I had waited all day. Like, my bladder was beyond full, and it was on the verge of bursting.
Wow.
And so they put in a catheter and drained it, and then I had to spend 2.5 weeks with the catheter in. Well, I can't afford to not be at work, so I actually had the bag attached so I could go to work. Wasn't fair to my fellow workers, I guess. They felt pretty awkward about it, but I still was able to do my job. Once that was removed, thought everything was okay, never thought no more of it, but I started, my doctor put me in touch with a urologist and started going for tests. And biopsy, and confirmed that yes, I had prostate cancer, and so that was actually in February 2018 is when it was affirmed that I had it. And so I'm monitored continuously. I go a couple times a year, and I get biopsies on a regular basis.
How did that take? You know, you got to
Well,
You get to go talk to Jane, and then you have
Yeah,
to let the kids know.
well, I explained to the kids that it wasn't aggressive. It's just there.
That's still though. That's the C word.
Yeah. Well, and
scary.
unfortunately, a lot of people, they downplay it and they go, "Well, it's not an aggressive cancer," but it can all of a sudden go aggressive.
Like
And,
that.
and men die from it every year.
Yep.
Well, actually, every day. And so you can't take light. Like
My dad had it. Yeah.
if you should get checked, and if you have an enlarged prostate, you should have that examined to make sure whether you have cancer or not, and then get the continuous monitoring. Like, it's embarrassing, but you know what? There's a lot more embarrassing things that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've had. I spent 2023. So from 2018 to 2023, almost every month I'd have a problem. I'd have the catheter and the bag on, and still going to work. And trust me, it's not comfortable doing that. But my urologist told me my prostate was so large that if they removed it, probably a lot of things wouldn't work anymore, and be a lot of nerve damage. My prostate is almost twice as big as a normal enlarged prostate. So he was a little shy about removing it, and which it wasn't, the cancer wasn't aggressive, so he as long as I could get by. But it was becoming just so cumbersome and so frustrating. Like I'd be at work and the bag would detach,
Right.
and things like that. And the credit to my brothers and sisters, all of them, my union brothers and sisters, everybody knew.
They had
And
your back.
it was one of these, and don't worry about it, and I didn't climb anymore, things like that. And well, you put your time in, you're the ground guy now, and stuff like that. And it was embarrassing, but I appreciated it.
Sure.
So 2023, I finally had enough. Talked to my urologist, and I says, "Okay, what can we do?" I says, I can't do this anymore." Because there was times where it was just so awkward that employers were a little hesitant about me staying on the job and things
Right.
like that. So, and I couldn't afford that. So he said, "Well, we can do a TURP, which is a transurethral resection of the prostate."
Okay.
Basically what it means is they go in and they bore it out, because as your prostate enlarges, it closes up on the inside,
Right.
and constricts your urethra. So I'm like, okay, that didn't sound too pleasant, but he said, but you can go back to work afterwards. And I said, "So what are my options like with this?" And I said, because I can't afford a lot of time off work. And he told me, you got to decide, what do you want to do? And so he finally told me, he says, "I will do it with the laser." He
Right.
said, "Normally it's not done on a prostate that large." He's one of the few urologists around that does do that, and it's Dr. Ramirez, amazing guy. And he says, "I'll do it with the laser." He says, "Then I can check on you in a couple weeks, and if you're doing fine," he says, "you can go back to work, as opposed to 3-4 months the other way." So that's what we did. Went through that, quite the procedure. It was great. Everything works fine. Everything works fine.
Everything. There you go. And here you are.
And here I am. I still get monitored because I still have the cancer. He could only remove 20%.
Right.
But I'm not on medications anymore.
Oh, wow.
I feel good. I lost weight.
Yeah. I was going to say, you look healthy. You know.
Yeah. It's you just got to keep an eye on things.
Right. And there's some relief in there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like now I can be back at work in a normal capacity.
Yeah.
But as I lost weight and I started feeling good, I'm like, you know what? I think I want to retire. And I started checking my pension to see the dollar value on it, and talked to my business agent at the Union Hall, and I says, here's where I'm at in hours. I need 50,000 to have my benefits covered.
Yeah, right.
You know, like there's all the practicalities that you got to think of. So we went through that, and he says, well, I need you to be steward for me on the next shutdown. So I went out there and I actually got my 50,000, or finished off my 50,000 hours on the shutdown. And so I told him, I said, this is my last time as steward. And he says, no. I says, oh yeah, I'm going to retire. He says, no, you don't need to retire. I says, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I says, I'm feeling good. Time to go.
Right.
Time for the young people to become steward.
Yeah. It's nice that they were trying to hold on to you. That kind of speaks volumes to.
Well, I
who you
appreciated
are.
that, but you know, as I said, it's
time.
time for others to
Yeah.
move up. They can call me anytime. I actually have a lot of apprentices call me when they just need someone to talk to. I'm kind of Uncle Ed.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not mom and dad.
Well, you're easy to talk to.
So they can talk to me about anything, and they have my personal number, and they'll call me day or night, whatever they need, and that's fine. I prefer that.
Yeah.
I'd rather, as you know, mental health is a big thing with me and my family, and in the trades, we lose so many young people. You know, they make a lot of money, they maybe start heading down the wrong path,
Yeah.
or just the pressures of everything. You know, you're working a lot, then there's that downtime when you're not working, and
Yeah.
it's hard to cope with. And I got tired of going to funerals for young people, and so that's why I give out my number, and just, you call me, talk to me. You know, I don't care day or night. My phone sits right beside me in the bedroom. I've picked it up at 2 o'clock in the morning before and talked with an apprentice that just needed someone to talk to.
It's great that you can do that for people.
And you know, so and there's all kinds of things that now that people can reach out to, but you know, sometimes they just need
Sometimes
someone that
it's
they can
Uncle Ed.
understand.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So, and thanks for sharing all of that, because mental health, it always seems to come up in the conversations that I have anyway. But I want to start wrapping up here, but of course, before we do, we want to talk about, so you're retired and then you're not, Altex, right?
So I decided I was going to go, and made up my mind. So August 1st, I retired, 2024, and surprised a few people. And so August 1st, I had been in a conversation with a company called Altex from Edmonton, Alberta, prior to my retirement. And they said, we'd like you to interview for a job. And I says, well, I'm going to retire. It's okay.
Like, yeah, no, I'm done.
And they...
you can't afford me.
and so I says, you know, like, I've got things I'm going to do. And they said, well, we'd really like you to interview for... Well, I said, well, how'd you get my name? Well, the union hall gave it to us. I went, oh, yeah. And he says, really doesn't want me retiring, does he? And so anyway, I says, yeah, sure, I'll interview. And they told me it was for a regional manager. I'm laughing. I'm like, you know, I've been foreman and stuff before, but that's not me. I'm always the steward.
Yeah.
So I told him that, and I says, you know, I'm always the steward, and I says, I don't know if I'm the guy you want. And so they said, well, you know, we'd like to come to Ontario. We've been there before, but it didn't go so well. You know, we need some help. We need a local person, and you know, what would you suggest? So I'm like, well, I'm not going to get the job anyway. I'll give them some ideas.
Oh, well.
So I made some ideas. I gave them some ideas and that. And okay, thanks. And so August 1st, I told them I was retiring August 1st. They called me that morning, and we're 2 hours ahead of them. They
Oh, yeah, right.
so they called me that morning and said, we'd like you to take the job, but we have a job in Sarnia in the fall. We want to do that, see how it goes, and if it goes well, then we're dedicated to opening up in Ontario. And I said, okay, so did you want me to come and work for you? Well, yeah, that's the plan. Oh, okay.
Wow.
So I went in on the tools.
And you're like, I'm not getting this job.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't expect it. So I went in on the tools. I actually ran one of the truck mount bundle pullers, and I was supposed to run the aerial too, but they kept me on the trucks. And so anyway, it was going so well, and they were doing what I had suggested. And the president and a couple of the other executives came out to visit while we were on the job, and they were very happy. The refinery we were in was extremely happy with the job we were doing.
Nice.
So they were positive. So they contacted me while they were out here, and they said, when the shutdown's over, we'd like you to take the position of Ontario Regional Manager. I'm like, okay, big fancy title. That just means that I know how to run the equipment and I fit in the truck. And they said, oh, no. They're like, you know a lot of people, and we think you'd be a good fit. And they're a pretty amazing company. They're very innovative.
Yeah.
They do things out west that some of the things we don't do so much here in Ontario, in Sarnia. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to work for you, I want to teach the tradesmen anything that they need to know.
Yeah.
Like there's little things that maybe the pipe fitters haven't been doing that maybe they want to know. And
right.
I said, the Boilermakers, like Altex is a multi-trade. So I said, if I'm approached and asked if I would help them learn something, I want to be able to do that. And so that's part of my deal.
Well, it's smart too because I'm not a trades guy. I never have been. My dad was a process operator, but Sarnia is just its own little world, right? And for them to have you as that personal connection, to come from out west and just try to walk in and go, "Hi, we're from out west." Yeah. It doesn't work. But I don't know why. It's just the way it is. It's a very tight knit community, right?
It is. Yeah, I worked hard at getting Altex as part of the Sarnia Construction Association.
Yeah.
So now I sit in with some of the people that used to hire me, and they're like, "Oh, there's that guy that's the steward, he's the troublemaker." Well, now they're laughing because now I'm on their side of the desk.
Right.
And
it's like being a defense lawyer and then a prosecutor, right?
Yeah. So it's a little different. I'm enjoying the challenge.
Yeah.
And I have a great team out west. If I have any questions or concerns, I call, and there's all kinds of people out there to help me. If I have a contractor here in town that wants some equipment, wants me to come in and teach their people how to use the equipment, whatever. If I don't have it here, they'll send it to me from out west.
Yeah.
And in it goes. We're just getting started, and I didn't want everything dumped here and then not be used. So as I need it, it'll come here. And our refineries are a little different here than out west.
Okay.
So I don't need all the stuff that they use out there. I need more Sarnia specific.
Mm-hmm. And you have that here in the yard. You were showing me.
Yeah, I have some equipment. I have an aerial bundle puller, and I have one of the largest capacity truck mount bundle pullers I kept here. One of the ones that I actually ran in last fall. I have what they call Altex lifts. So these are devices that'll pick up the bundles without rigging. They hook onto the crane. They're a safer way to do it if you can do them at that time.
Okay.
Use them. I've got some equipment. I've got a trailer with tools in it that I can load up for various jobs.
And you got a nice office here too, Ed.
I do.
Right?
That was the hard part, finding a location.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things I told them that we had to have.
Have to be accessible too.
We had to have a location here in Sarnia. I says, if you're coming to Ontario, you got to commit.
Yeah.
And I says, if you're just going to be here, you won't get accepted. You need an address. You need to use local tradespeople, teach local tradespeople, not import everybody, and that. Let's be local.
Local, yeah.
And so that's what they're all about. I have a sponsorship budget, so I can help local charities.
Yeah, that's important in this community, right?
It is. As I said, if the Boilermakers want to learn something and I have the equipment, I'm free to take it in and train. If I have something that the pipe fitters want and they want to learn about, I'm free to take it in and help them learn about it. any of the trades.
Yeah.
And if it's something I don't have here, as I said, they'll send it to me.
Yeah.
They've really bought in. The president, Dave Reach, is an amazing guy. He's very supportive, and he understands how training is important to me and that.
You can tell because when we met for lunch the other day, like you had reached out to me and started filling me in, and I was like, wow, this is, and again, not being a trades guy, I was still quite intrigued by the way you spoke about this company and them supporting the way you're telling them, like saying, okay, and then that local side of it.
They're very much into that.
You can't always be local, but I mean, there's still things you got to do and pull from out of town, but that local vibe, that local support, and the fact that they're willing to do that and is going to help them sit at the table, so to speak, right? So,
I hope so. You know, like right now, I'm a team of one. But if I get a call for a job and I need people, I'm not keeping everybody on staff. I call the union hall, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and if I can, you know, send me somebody that needs a job. If you can do that.
Right.
You know. That's
great. Well, I know we're going to be. Boy, we're out of time here. I know we're going to be talking more with you and Altex I don't know why I keep sorry, Altex.
Altex.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing some stuff. He's even going to try to get me running some equipment here. Can you believe me? Yeah. I don't go much beyond a microphone, Ed, so this could be fun. But we'll be doing that coming up in the future. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for talking and sharing some very personal things in there as well. I know that'll be impactful to some people watching, and to all of you who are watching. You know what I say? Click the love button, and click the share button. It's the most important button you can click to share Ed and everybody else's story I have here on the show. But as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. We'll see you next time right here on the show. Bye for now.